Hi, you're listening to This Is Not Your Practice Life. I'm your host, Macy Renee, and we are going on a journey together, my friends. I'm a certified life and emotional intelligence coach. And if you really want to step into your highest self, there are a few non-negotiables you're going to have to learn, and I am just the person to help you do it. No matter your past, I'm here to help you create a more fulfilling future. So stick around with me. Not only will I teach you how to navigate your brain's daily mind drama, but I'll help you actually understand your mind, your emotions, why you do the things you do, and why others do the things they do. Most importantly, I'll help you build the self-awareness skills to create whatever results you want. It's never too late to change the trajectory of your life. After all, this is not your practice life. Hello, friends. Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. I'm really excited to dive into today's content. I just want to tell you really quick, if you missed yesterday's episode, I'm doing a bonus week because I got behind on my podcast recordings. So I dropped an episode for you yesterday. I'm dropping this one today, and guess what? We're dropping one tomorrow too. So you're getting all of the goodies this week so that I can kind of catch back up and just be on a roll with my podcast recording. Life has just been so crazy busy, but I need to keep my commitments and honor what I like to do. And I love recording and releasing episodes for you all because I know that they are very valuable. And some of you really do wait every single week for a new one. So when I don't get one out, I do think of the people who are probably like, WTF, Macy, where's my episode? Really quickly before I get into today's topic, you can go back and listen to yesterday's episode just to learn of the Black Friday deals if you're interested. There's some really great ones. One-on-one coaching is $500 off, and you get to opt into the mini programs, the mini coaching programs, Elevated EQ and The Threshold, at no additional cost if you sign up by the end of the day, November 29th, 2025. So that's a huge deal because you will really get very hands-on coaching and kind of like mentorship with the one-on-one private coaching, but then you also get to experience more structured coaching with the group and certain topics that are going to help you build a very strong foundation. And that's exciting because of what I have coming. For anybody that's not on my email list or social media, I am making a big announcement on December 16th to share what I've been working on privately and secretively for about a year and a half. And although that new advanced program that I'll be announcing on December 16th will not start until March of next year, the end of March, it's a prerequisite that you do both of the mini coaching programs because we're really going to be taking that work to the next level in a very precise, powerful, elevated, amazing way. And it's not fair to anybody that does the advanced program to have people in there that don't understand the foundational things that are going to be so important. So that being said, with Black Friday, again, if you do one-on-one coaching, you get to opt into the mini programs for no additional cost. The same is true for the Miami retreat. That's 25% off this week, and you can opt in to both of the mini coaching programs at no additional cost. So that is pretty darn exciting. It's really to prepare. I really just want to prepare as many women as possible with the mini programs so that they have an opportunity to position themselves to say yes to what's coming should they want to. It's very possible there may be some women that, the advanced program doesn't really speak to them, and that is totally fine. But what I would hate is to make the announcement on December 16th, like I cringe at the thought, and to have people that have not put themselves in the position to be able to do that if they want to. So that being said, if you don't take advantage of any of the Black Friday deals going on, private one-on-one coaching or the Miami retreat, that's fine. But you do have only until December 12th. Okay, really important date. December 12th is the deadline to get enrolled in one or both of the mini coaching programs that you may need. Okay, you need both of them to qualify for the advanced room that's coming next year. But some of my clients have taken one and not the other. The last day to enroll in whatever program you need or both is December 12th. Okay, so just make sure that you are enrolled in the mini coaching programs by December 12th if you're not going to take advantage of either one of the Black Friday deals that I'm offering this week. All right, now let's get into today's topic because there is a question that I ask myself anytime a situation occurs in life where my ego takes over. I start to create maybe a false narrative or story in my head, judgment, or get very emotionally unregulated. And I'm going to give you a silly example, but it happens a lot for people like in traffic. If someone cuts you off in traffic, if someone, beeps at you at a red light or for whatever reason, think about those moments where you just get really bent out of shape. Like maybe, you're already stressed or you're in your own head and that happens. It's really easy to kind of come out of body and then want to yell at the other individual or match their energy, or you feel yourself getting kind of bent out of shape, and then you make up a bunch of stories about them and being an idiot and just getting out of character, I would say, of your highest self. It happens to all of us. It's not just traffic example. I'm going to give so many examples so that maybe you can see how this shows up in your own life. But I'm going to also share with you a question that I asked myself to ground and to regulate my nervous system again. And that question, whenever this situation kind of pertains to me, is what else could be true here? That is such a powerful question to ask yourself in so many scenarios. What else could be true here? Especially when you notice yourself getting emotionally irritated, especially if it's towards another person. If you find that your, ego's taking over, it's trying to protect you, and you feel almost like you're going to act out in a way that's not you. Ask yourself, what else could be true here? So here is why this question is very, very powerful. It combats negative thinking, assumptions, and the spiraling that is so natural for us as humans. It slows our emotional reaction. It makes room for more empathy. And a lot of the women that I work with are already very empathetic. That is an emotional intelligence skill. And it's one that as women, being natural nurturers, we're pretty good at empathy. But asking this question just expands on that in a very powerful way because it helps regulate your nervous system at the same time. And it stops you from adopting the first, usually most dramatic thought that your brain can offer you, and helps kind of eliminate that cognitive bias that sometimes we have. So I want you to imagine this. I want you to imagine that someone does cut you off in traffic. A lot of times our default, and this is like an ego-driven nervous system being unregulated kind of reaction. The default knee-jerk impulsive reaction is they're a total jerk. They don't care. They're so reckless. What an idiot, right? We have this kind of narrative. We might even scream it out loud, whether we're by ourselves or there's other people with us. And the emotional result of that for us is experiencing anger and tension and sometimes even a ruined morning. We will literally let something like this ruin our morning, or maybe even our day. If you have somebody cut you off in traffic or honk, especially if you're already stressed, you might be like, oh, what a horrible morning. People are so rude. Oh, I hate people, and it feels so natural a lot of times in different scenarios like this. But the reason that I like to ask what else could be true here is because it allows you, again, to offer the brain alternatives. And it takes you out of your ego kind of behavior and helps you see other sides of things that could also be true, because you don't know why they may be swerved into your lane. You don't know why, even if they did swerve into your lane, and it's very dangerous and you saw that they're distracted, yes, that could be very annoying. Yes, they could be very reckless. But what I mean is not so much excusing behavior like that, but not allowing moments like that to ruin your emotional experience for a prolonged amount of time. So, for instance, when something like this happens, I ask myself, what else could be true here? Because I want my brain to come up with other thoughts that could also be true, since I don't actually factually know why they did what they did. And that may be allowing my brain to explore other examples, like maybe they did that because they just got terrible news and they don't know how to like regulate their emotional state right now. Maybe they're trying to get somewhere important, like the hospital, or they got an emergency call. Maybe they're a brand new driver. Maybe they're distracted because their toddler or their baby is screaming and they're overstimulated. Maybe they genuinely didn't see me, or maybe they're carrying something super emotionally heavy today, like a diagnosis or something that, a family member or friend is going through. Now, again, I'm not saying any of these things to ever excuse someone's, we'll call it maybe unwanted behavior. But the reason that I am asking myself this question is because our brain is really good at making up stories that feel like they're serving us. And it makes up stories that help us justify emotions, even emotions we don't want to stay stuck in. And when it's making up stories, literally a made up story, okay? A made up story. And you then have an emotional reaction to a made up story, and then you hold that emotion for the rest of the day and let it ruin everything else, your mood, how you treat other people, how you go home to your own family. That becomes a problem ongoing. That is someone who is unable to emotionally regulate themselves. So I ask myself this question so my brain gets really good at practicing a different form of emotional regulation. Because at the end of the day, I don't know the reason why they swerved into my lane or why they were so impatient honking at me. I don't know. I will never know that unless I get to actually talk to them about what's happening for them. Okay. But what I do know is I don't want the stagnant emotion from that moment dictating my mood and how I respond the rest of the day. So I'm going to find other thoughts that could also be true that make me practice more compassion and empathy so that I can come down from big emotions and remember I'm in charge of my day. So, unless you were to literally flag down a person and ask them why they did what they did, whatever story you make up becomes your truth in that moment. And then you have to recognize, why did I choose a story that is costing me peace? Why did I choose a story that is literally costing me peace? So I'm going to just riff on a few other examples of what sometimes happens, whether these have been scenarios that clients have brought up or friends have brought up, and what kind of thoughts I might be thinking or practice thinking in order to emotionally practice empathy, compassion, and regulating in a different way. Okay. So let's say there's a friend who doesn't text you back. How many of us make up stories about why that friend's not texting us back, or make it about us, or get all in our head, start feeling bad for ourselves, start feeling angry, start feeling frustrated. It impacts our mood. I mean, you know the deal. I don't even have to tell someone who naturally does this. If that is what you do, I want you to ask yourself, what else could be true? What else could be true here? It could be this friend is overwhelmed, or this friend meant to respond and forgot. Maybe they looked at it, they opened their phone when they were driving, saw it, forgot to come back to it. Maybe they're sick or dealing with family member, a family member that they haven't shared all the details about. Like, people are entitled to privacy and not sharing every single thing with us. Maybe something's wrong with their phone or the battery died. Maybe they were just distracted. So, when you practice, again, the skill of what else could be true, you're helping your brain not get stuck in a specific thought that you also don't know is true, that is leading to an unwanted or maybe negative emotional experience in your body that creates this cycle or behavior that you don't want. Because here's what else can happen, right? If you just assume why this friend isn't texting you back. She's mad at me. She's ignoring me. She's upset with me. If you listen to those stories, let's say you listen to those stories, you make yourself sick over it. You're frustrated over it. You're sticking with the emotions of just being irritated, upset, anxious, whatever. The emotions that you feel in life drive your next steps. They drive your actions. So if you're holding those emotions in your body, then that is going to dictate what you do next. Now, if you are keeping those emotions all day, maybe even for several days, depending on this friend not answering you back, you might end up sending a message that was totally unnecessary to your friend about, why are you mad at me? Or what did I do wrong? you might end up picking a fight, creating disconnection, robbing that friend of feeling like they can just have space or emotional safety to deal with whatever they're dealing with in their life. Like, there are so many scenarios where you could do not like legit harm, right? But do more harm than good because you were stuck in a spiral of stories and emotions that are not serving you. So when you ask yourself what else could be true, okay, you provide your brain some other solutions so you don't act impulsively on emotions that often, I say when emotions are high, intelligence is low, those big emotions that sometimes cause more destruction in the moment. So when you ask this question, you give yourself more time to process, and then you also get to go address it maybe with more emotional maturity, because then you can maybe, like when you're calm and you're not sure why they haven't answered in a couple of days, you can follow back up and you can say like, hey, just checking on you, is everything okay? As opposed to just assuming and being impulsive. So another example of this is if your partner gets really snippy or short with you. And again, you go down the rabbit hole. I've done something wrong. They're mad at me. What else could be true? Okay. Maybe they're stressed about work. Maybe their basic needs have not been met, like they're hungry or they're tired or they're overstimulated. Maybe it's Maybelline. Oh my gosh. Maybe they're mentally checked out from their own worries. You know, some people disassociate and don't have the same skills that you're practicing here, your emotional intelligence skills. Maybe they didn't even realize that their tone changed with you and that they were snippy or short because they have so much in their own head. And maybe they're anxious about something totally unrelated and it actually has nothing to do with you, but your ego is trying to make it have to do with you, you know? And I am guilty of this. I used to do this with my husband all the time when we were in our early stages of marriage, and it really created a lot of frustration and internalization for me. That was just so unnecessary. I did an episode on this maybe a couple weeks ago. It was about assuming, and this is what I mean. Like my husband would come home and be snippy, and a lot of times, you know, it was because of work. But in those moments and in those years, I would just assume it was a me problem. Like, I've done something wrong. I've asked too many questions. It's definitely a me thing. And I would get all in my head, and then I would match his energy and I'd get snippy back. And then we would argue and fight over dumb things. And then he finally would be like, it's just work. Like, it's work. I'm so tired and overwhelmed and I don't like what I'm doing and I want a different solution. And also when I come through the door, like, I just need to be able to create maybe like a 15-minute degree of separation of what just happened, which means going straight to like the bedroom, showering my day off, and then coming and settling into home. And again, if I would have even back then thought to ask the question, what else could be true, which took a lot of practice, right, eventually to get to. But if I would have asked that back then, we would have had a lot less arguments. Okay. So another thing that I want to share, like another example that I'd like to share is maybe you have a family member who cancels plans. And again, what is your first thought? Maybe it's they don't care. They don't care to have a relationship with my children or me. They're too worried about themselves. They don't want to drive. They don't blah, blah, blah. Okay. What else could be true? It could be that that family member is mentally exhausted or struggling with their own mental health. It could be that they're trying to practice boundaries that they don't know how to communicate. And maybe in the past they've overextended themselves and always shown up. And now they don't really want to, but they're afraid to hurt feelings. Maybe they're still in people pleasing. Maybe they're struggling emotionally. Maybe life is heavier for them than they've ever let you know about. You just never know. So there are so many examples that I could give, but the point of this is that you really practice the work of getting out of your own ego. Okay? Because if you can get out of being in your own ego and practicing more compassion, you're going to be able to regulate your feelings and reactions so much faster. So much faster. And I really believe that it helps keep relationships much more healthy. Something that I teach my clients all the time is that there is power in curiosity. That is their superpower, is being a very curious person. So rather than an assuming person that wants to make up stories and believe you know everything about someone else and why their behavior is their behavior, before just going with that, whatever your brain offers, which many times is going to be wrong, okay, just get curious. Ask questions. So I'm going to give one more example because I think this sometimes happens. If you ever read a social media post that maybe feels like it's a jab directed towards you, I've definitely had family members, maybe even acquaintances, make a post where I've felt attacked, even if it wasn't about me. But my brain will tell me, oh, they're definitely talking about me. I know that this is about me. As hard as it is, ask yourself, what else could be true? It could also be true that they were not thinking of you at all, that they are processing their own stuff, that they struggle with any kind of confrontation or curiosity themselves, that they posted, something impulsively, and that's just because they have not practiced the skill of regulating. It could also be something totally unrelated. Totally unrelated. It makes me laugh too, because a lot of times on my podcast, clients will be like, I just know that you were talking about me in that episode. And so many times I'm like, actually, no. I recorded the episode before you ever told me anything that you were going through on your coaching call. Like, that will happen so often. Like, I could be recording this podcast literally right now, and a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, a month from now, have a client say something like, I just listened to your episode. I feel like that was about me because of, things I've coached on, and have no idea that the episode was recorded and scheduled way ahead of ever having their coaching call. But it will feel like it's an attack because it applies to their life. And that can also be true for something like social media. It could feel like, oh, well, that feels like it applies to me, or we've had maybe a similar conversation, and so now I feel like they're posting about me, but it doesn't always mean that it's true. So let this be your superpower question. In addition to curiosity, let what else could be true, or what else could be true here, be something that helps your nervous system regulate once more. Okay, that's what I have for you today. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow with the third bonus episode. Again, have a wonderful week. Happy Thanksgiving week, by the way. And if you have any questions about the Black Friday deals, or you need the discount codes because you're not on my email list or you can't find them, just make sure you send me an email at coaching@maceyrenee.com. It'll be in the show notes so you can easily find it, and I will be happy to help you out. Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. If you'd like to connect on social media, you can find me on both Instagram and Facebook at Macey Renee Coaching. And if you want to stay up to date on all of my offers, announcements, and inspirational emails, you can join my email list at maceyrenee.com. In addition, if there's a way that I can further support you in your coaching journey, you can schedule a free 60-minute consult at maceyrenee.com anytime you want, so we can discuss the best options for you. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.